So parenting is a challenge for many of us. If you're out there and you have kids, grandkids, nephews, nieces, godchildren that you love, you know that what we all want are kids that are joyful, fulfilled, and effective. And they do not come with rule books, sadly. But luckily, our next author is the author of Parenting for Success. Daniel, come join me out here. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
So when they gave me the baby, it did not come with a manual. I was very disappointed about this, but you really put that manual together here in a lot of ways. Tell us about Parenting for Success.
Yeah, it's so true. Parenting is the most important job that we have as parents, and there's very few manuals, there's very few consistent ideas or things that really fit. And most people, and we care about our kids so much that we just do the very best we can for the most part, which a lot of times that works great, but there's just enough things going on in society, especially nowadays, that we really need some extra help and things and ideas to help make that work. And so the book lays out a bunch of those things. It starts out with some fundamental principles and ideas of techniques of how to do things. It goes into creating an identity for your children. They can find their self-esteem. It goes into family legacy and family identity. One part in the book it's kind of exciting is I invented what I call the after meal process, where you have, I don't know if anyone's ever had the experience where they have their kids Saturday morning, the kitchen's a mess, the house is a mess, the kids are running around everywhere. Well, in the book, I explain how to actually get your kids to clean the entire kitchen in under 10 minutes working as a team.
That's great. And you have a team. So I got a solo roller. So it would be the two of us. Can we still do it in 10 minutes? Because you got a lot more help. How many kids you got over there?
So we do have, when we first did that process, we had 5 kids. And so we did it all together with all 5 of them, but you can do it with 2. I mean, you can bring their friends, you can do it yourself, or you can even do it with just the one. I mean, it's really flexible and you can do however you need.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit. I know you're a businessman. You've been running a business, part of a family legacy there. How did you become the Parenting for Success guy? How did this happen?
So the way it happened is, man, it's been a couple of decades now where I just had a couple of little kids myself and looking around and wondering, man, how do I do this? And how do I, challenges in my own childhood and the things I saw other people go through, I'm thinking, wow, what do I do to not screw these wonderful kids up? And so what I did is I started interviewing parents. We started putting together programs and putting them in place in our own family. And then people started noticing things that were happening with our kids. They were doing well in school. They seemed to be well behaved. And like, what are you doing? How do you do that? How do you get your kids to do that? And so we kind of started talking to them about how that works. We gave them some techniques. And then people started asking more and more. We've even given a class. And it's just kind of gone from there. And then people say, well, you got to write a book. So I'm like, okay, well, I got to write a book. I can't explain everything to everyone one-on-one. So a book will...
Yeah, that'd be a lot of phone calls. So it's interesting as you're talking, you're saying we, and I know that you are the one who did the bulk of the writing of this book, but this is really part of the Family Success Institute and your mission as a part of that group. So what is the Family Success Institute?
Yeah, so the Family Success Institute, it's a company that has gathered up coaches and obviously authors and put together they're putting together some systems and training programs to help families in a profound way. And so this book is just a part of that. The other programs they're offering, things like how to put routines together. There's health. There's all different things that they're providing and offering that is just amazing.
That is incredible. So let's take some questions from our audience. And by the way, if you have questions, now is a good time to type them up. Talked about the fact you own a business, you're part of the Family Success Institute. You have how many kids total?
We've got 7 right now, and we're still going. So
7 and going strong. And I think had a wedding this year.
We did, yes, we did.
And so not a lazy time for you.
Right.
business, 7 kids, wedding, part of this Family Success Institute. Sarah from Hawaii wants to know, how much time did you allocate to working on your book? A lot of people, I think they imagine you just took 2 months off, went to a cabin in Maine, pretty much worked on your book from 8 a.m. to, sunset or whatever. Probably didn't go like that.
Right. Well, I had to put together kind of a trick where I put on a Post-it note a time allocation for 2 hours. And then I just committed. I turned my phone off. I turned my computer off. And I said, I'm going to work on this book for these 2 hours. And then I had a goal per week of how many Post-it notes I would try to do. And so that just kind of happened, and it just kind of got done. I was doing it at middle of the night sometimes. Sometimes it was in the morning. Sometimes I was at work. I mean, just depends on when I had the idea or the energy to do that 2-hour block.
So most of our authors, to get through their first draft manuscript, is somewhere between 24 and 48 hours. Does that sound about right?
It took me a little bit longer, but it's close to that, actually. Adding them all together, it was probably about maybe 55 or so altogether, but it was close to that, yeah.
Yeah, so I think people are surprised by that because there is a lot that we see about like writing a novel, like that's sort of a different thing. When you're taking knowledge of 10 or 20 years that you've been teaching in different formats or just having a cup of coffee with a neighbor and sharing this information, it's information and to get that information out of you, usually it's 24 to 48 hours to write a book, 55 hours. Now, there's still editing. That's not the only thing you'll do. But Sarah, my advice to you is decide how much time you want to work on this, and then work backwards from there, because giving yourself more time actually does not make it easier, surprisingly.
No, it doesn't. And sometimes you can kind of screw yourself up by being distracted or rewriting things. And like was mentioned earlier, you just got to keep writing forward and then go back to edit after the first draft.
Yep. Okay, got one more question for you. This one's from Kelly from Iowa. And Kelly wants to reach out to the Christian market, but she's a little worried that her topic might not be accepted by that market. So she says, how can I remain truthful to my story, but still reside in the Christian market? Or do I not worry about fitting into a molded market? I'd love your take on this one.
Well, it really depends on who you're trying to reach. And so if you're trying to reach a Christian market, then explain and talk and be the person that reaches that market. And the people you're trying to serve is what you're trying to communicate. So communicate to that person. And so there's every market out there. You're not going to not going to serve every single person. You might have some critics, but don't worry about that. Just serve who you're trying to serve and do the best you can on that.
You paid attention. That was very good. That's exactly what I would have said. Yeah, Kelly, this is what I'm so excited for you to just really connect with who you do want to reach. And then there's this magical thing that happens. And this is my favorite part of the difference process. And it happened for me with your book. I probably wasn't squarely in your ideal reader niche, but because you wrote so clearly to your ideal reader, I was able to read the book and take things that worked for me, which wasn't necessarily every single thing, but I can see myself in relation to the book. So Kelly, for you, if you pick who do you want to speak to, exactly that one person, just know there will be people who identify as more Christian than you, less Christian with you, non-Christian, anywhere in that realm, and they'll know how to read your book if you're clear. If you try to please everyone, you will end up pleasing no one. You've probably heard that before. And I really think that's one of the strengths with Parenting from Success. You know who you are, you know what your perspective is, and it's reasoned, and you're just doing your thing, and other people can learn from that. So
yeah, exactly.
Very powerful. So I'm giving you the microphone, but what I meant to do is give you your book. There it is, Parenting for Success. Raise joyful, fulfilled, and effective children. Nobody wants that more. So the Family Success Institute bringing you Daniel Kingston. Thank you for joining us on the red carpet, and congratulations on your book.